Do you find yourself regularly missing shots in combat? Would you like to know a fairly simple and quick way to improve your aim? Hi, I'm Moist Noodle, a 9-year veteran dogfighter in Star Citizen, and in this video, I'm going to cover in more detail 2 mechanics that will help you improve your aim and how to tailor them to your playstyle. Stick around until the end of the video to find out how you could win yourself a brand new Drake Cutter Rambler. It comes with lifetime insurance and a game package. Every video is somebody's first, so if you're new to the channel, keep your eyes open for the terminology cards in the lower left. I use these to familiarize viewers with some of the terms associated with flight and combat. If I do use any terms in this video that you're still unsure of, don't be afraid to ask in the comments section below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. But today I'll be your pilot training instructor, and welcome to the Ready Room. Enhanced Stick Precision is a game setting that assists joystick and mouse VJoy users with their aim. It's important to point out that this is not an auto-aim, as it doesn't move your guns or crosshair, but instead it dampens the input from your controls the closer you aim the crosshair to the pip. At least, that's how it's supposed to work. There is a very old ESP bug in the game that will cause your crosshair to sometimes get dragged towards the pip. This is not how ESP is supposed to work, and unfortunately, it does cause some inconsistency when it comes to aiming accuracy. It's important to remember that there is no perfect ESP setting. Everyone is different and using different controls. You have to experiment to discover what works for you, but in this video, I'll be showing you my method of how to do that. First, it's important to understand ESP. So let's take a look at a visual example of how ESP works. Here on the board, we have our ship's crosshair, and over here, we have our target marker and their associated pip. We want to aim our crosshair into the pip in order to land shots on the target. ESP is connected to your target's pip and consists of 2 settings. The radius, this is how far from the pip the dampening should occur. And we have the curve, this is how sticky the effect should feel. Essentially, once you're within that radius, you'll need to move your mouse or joystick more dramatically, but this allows you an increase in aim precision. Because of the dampening nature of ESP, there can be some situations where you find your target outturning you, even when they're in the same ship. There are flight maneuvers that can help you outturn your target. Keep your eyes open for my future basic flight maneuvers video, but this can also be a consequence of ESP. If you're knife fighting with your target and you'll find that they are sitting just outside of your crosshair, you might find that the radius of your ESP setting is preventing your ship from rotating at its maximum speed. You might also run into an issue where you're fighting somebody at high speed, and whenever you try to aim into the pip, your crosshair is instead pushed away from the pip. This is due to a combination of the game struggling to calculate the impact points at high speed, but also can be due to the curve of your ESP setting being too high, and as well as the bug mentioned earlier. As your crosshair passes over the pip, it simply feels like your crosshair is being pushed away. So how do we overcome these limitations? The good news is that you have a few choices to try. You can use a fairly weak ESP curve. This is my main method, but does require more concentration and practice aiming. You can bind the ESP on-off switch so you can turn it on and off on the fly. I do also sometimes use this method. Star Citizen now has a bind that allows you to temporarily enable ESP. So for example, you could put this bind onto a secondary mouse button or onto the first stage of your joystick trigger, so ESP only kicks in when you want it to. Now you understand what ESP is, how it works and its limitations, let's discuss how you can dial in your ESP settings. These settings can be found in the Game Settings tab of the Options menu. For pilots who are newer to combat, I normally suggest using a slightly larger radius initially. I'd probably crank it to max and slowly decrease it over time until you find a sweet spot that feels comfortable for you. For the curve, I would suggest putting it at its lowest setting and increasing it in increments until you find you're landing consistent shots. Something to bear in mind with the curve is that while your setting might work well against slower targets, if you're fighting something small and nimble, then the setting might work against you if you set it too high. So I'd recommend the lowest curve that you're comfortable with. So at this point, you're probably asking, how can I tell where the sweet spot is? Pay attention to your aim when fighting. This is where you might want to record your combat footage to review later. From my experience, I find that if my crosshair is constantly chasing behind the pip, then I've set the curve too high and made ESP too sticky. Reduce the curve a bit and try again. If I find myself constantly overshooting the pip, then I've not made it sticky enough, or the radius is too small. When reviewing your fights, keep this in mind and tweak the curve and radius until you find that sweet spot. Before we move on, if you found this video useful and would like to see more, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Also, if you have any questions or you think I've missed anything, let me know in the comments below. The Predicted Impact Point, or PIP, is a target marker that identifies to a pilot where they need to aim their weapons to have the best chance of hitting their target. It comes in two flavors. The lead PIP is a marker attached to the target that moves ahead of their ship. This type of PIP is similar to what you would have seen in older space combat games like Free Space 2, one of the best space combat games ever created. The second type of PIP is called a lag PIP, and instead of it being attached to the target, it's attached to our crosshair. Instead of aiming your crosshair into a PIP, you aim the lag PIP over your target. This is actually how real-life fighter plane HUDs work in gun combat. You're probably asking which PIP will improve your aim. I know some pilots who swear that you should only use lag, but from my experience, it's better to use both, depending on the situation. So how would I use them? As a general rule of thumb, I use lead when I'm approaching or merging onto a target, or at least when the target is at range. I use lead in this situation as the PIP not only shows me where to shoot, but how to maneuver my ship in order to merge onto the target. But how does the PIP show you how to maneuver? Let me show you. Just a heads up before we move on to this example, I'm only going to be delving into the use of the PIP here. So while I am talking about merging, I'm only doing so in relation to the use of the PIP. I am, however, working on a video that discusses this in more depth, so keep your eyes open for that. Our target is 3 kilometers away, and we have a convergence speed of 600 meters per second. This is how quickly we're approaching each other. Something else to take note here is the PIP. As you can see, the PIP is not sat directly on top of the target. This means that they are traveling in a transversal vector. That's a posh way of saying they're going a bit sideways. In fact, if we keep traveling without either of us maneuvering, I will go this way and they will go that way. You can generally tell where a target is going to be by drawing a line from the target ship to their PIP, and the distance between the PIP and their ship should give you an idea of the distance. Take a look at this example. Here you can see the PIP to the left of the target ship, and you can see that they pass by on my left. Whereas in this example, they pass by on my left, but further away this time. Draw that line and pay attention to the distance between the PIP and the ship. We want to merge onto the target. We know that the target is going to be over here, so we need to fly to where the target is going to be, not to where they currently are. So I strafe in the direction of their vector. As you can see, the pip moved closer to the target. That's because whenever you maneuver, it also affects your target's pip. In order to merge, you want to maneuver in a way that brings the pip close to the target. A word of warning, however, you never want the pip to be directly over the target. If it is, you're probably going to crash into them. Again, this isn't a merging guide, so I'm not going to go into any more detail here about that topic, but this example should help you understand how the pip is used for more than just aiming your guns. It's a predicted impact point, and that includes your ship. As I mentioned earlier, I do have another video coming dedicated to basic flight maneuvers, so watch this space. So how about the lag pip? When would I use it? Well, if we're using lead to merge onto the target, we'll use lag once we are within engagement range. Lag pip has a couple of advantages over lead in combat. It keeps your eyes directly on the target ship, which means you're paying more attention to what they're doing and allows you to aim more accurately at specific parts of the ships, like an engine or a turret. Or if you're attacking a heavy fighter or larger, focus on a specific shield facing to optimize your damage output. You can also use the lag pip to merge onto the target, but from my experience, a lot of people find it a bit less intuitive to do so. You have a couple of settings for pips. In the game settings, you can find the default pip, and in your keybinds, you can set a key for swapping between pips on the fly. I recommend doing this. Between these settings, you should find a sweet spot that should help you improve your aim. If you're a mouse user who hasn't yet tweaked their V-Joy settings, I recommend checking out my previous video linked in the description below, as that should really help you. As mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm giving away the brand new Drake Cutter Rambler. To be in with a chance of winning, hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment below. I'll be drawing the giveaway on the 31st of January, and will leave the winner's name in a pinned comment after getting in touch with them. As always, if you guys have any questions or you think I missed anything, please leave a comment below. I also have a Discord that you can join, the link is in the description. A massive thank you to my Patreons, they allow me to spend a bit more time working on these videos. If you'd like to support my content, check it out in the description. I also stream most days on Twitch, so come hang out with the Noodle Nation and our community of Noodlenauts. But for now, I've been Moist Noodle, and I'll shoot you in the verse.